Hey everybody, Tekking101 here, and welcome back to another video about trading cards! This was not planned. Yesterday I did the video on the One Piece trading card game. I just happened to find them in the store, so I talked about it. This video has honestly been in the works for a while now. It's taken me a while to get around to it. But it was a lot of fun a couple years ago to go through every single specified slot card from the Greed Island arc of Hunter x Hunter. I feel like I owe it to Togashi, you know what I mean? He took the time out of his life to create an entire card game for a manga arc that was honestly not even that long. And that is why Greed Island is the single greatest story arc in all of Hunter x Hunter. I don't care about those Chimera Ants. I don't care about the York New City auctions or whatever. Togashi made a whole damn card game, alright? But if you look on the back of this poster, there's even more cards! So, I went through 100 cards last time. This time, let's go through the 40 spell cards that are found in Greed Island. That should be a fun time, right? Absolutely. So, honestly though, I was having a little bit of a problem on how to frame this video, because the whole point of the 100 specified slot cards is that you take them off the island as a reward for beating the game, and each one of them is, well, in theory, supposed to have a really cool effect that can make your life better. Like, for example, we have, we got the Angel's Breath card right here. This card played a very pivotal role throughout the entire arc. Funnily enough, in order to get an Angel's Breath inside of Greed Island, you have to collect all 40 spell cards and then trade them all in for this. Yeah, it's one of those. Gene really knew how to make an RPG, ladies and gentlemen, yeah. Oh yeah, the only way to get this really rare item is to give me every item in your bank. And 100 mil. There you go. Okay, but anyway, yeah, Angel's Breath, really interesting card because it heals any injury or disease in our world. So if you win the game and take this off the island, it doesn't matter if you literally, like, Gon got his left hand blown off by Genthru. This card fixed it like that. He was right as rain, all right? So if you take this card, even if you get in the most horrible, debilitating accident possible, where you get into like a car accident or something and you lose both legs and every bone in your body's broken, just use this card, Angel's Breath on, and then you'll be fixed up good as new. So that was the premise of the 100 specified slot cards. Some were better than others. I mean, there was one card that allowed you to, it had a pair of scissors that allowed you to cut people out of your life. There was a genie that could grant you any wish, but you had to list 1,000 different wishes, and then it would pick just 3 random ones. There, of course, was Recycling Room, which was really cool. It was a card that allowed you to put anything that was broken in this room and then it would fix it. The drawback was you're not allowed to tell anybody about the room. So a lot of really cool cards like that. There's others that weren't that useful. Like this was just like a really rare white stag beetle that you just have. And whatever, but we already went through all of those, okay? Now, the spell cards, while it is possible to take those off of Greed Island, because Gon sort of figured out the system and used a combination of Transform and Paladin's Necklace, which Barry's actually sporting back here, Gon figured out a way to bring an Accompany card off of Greed Island into the real world, and it worked just the same. However, with the exception of a few cards, such as Accompany and Magnetic Force that were teleportation spells, not a lot of other spells are really going to be all that useful in the real world. For example, this is the Peek card. This card allows you to look to see what other cards your opponent has. Okay, that's great on Greed Island if you're actively playing the game, but if you're in our world outside of the game, then this card's really not all that useful, you know what I mean? So for this video, we gotta do things a little bit differently. Instead of thinking about all of the different cards that could make your life beneficial, we have to flip the script a bit, and in this video, we gotta do a little bit of role play. We gotta imagine, now calm down. We gotta do a little bit of role playing where we're in Greed Island, we're all players in Greed Island. We have the rings, book, we have the binders and everything like that, and we got to figure out what the best combination of spells are to keep us in this game, all right? And more importantly, to keep all of the specified slot cards in our binder, because that's the whole point of Greed Island. Once again, Gene was a son of a bitch when it came to designing this game, all right? I want to go over really quick just the basic rules of Greed Island so we're all on the same page here, all right? So, The overall premise of Greed Island is you have to collect 100 specified slot cards. Once you do that, you beat the game. All right, so that already is like the main campaign setting, and Ita even tells you that when you enter the game. She gives you a very brief tutorial. That is the main premise of the game. Collect 100 cards. Okay, now then, problem with that is you're not going to get very far because everybody wants to steal your cards, and that's the premise behind the spell card system. All of the spell cards, or I guess not all of the spell cards, but the vast majority allow you to see which cards your opponents have and allow you to steal cards from them. There's another bunch of spells that just make travel in the game easier, like Accompany and Magnetic Force. There's the spell Contact, which allows you to just talk to another player. You know, so there's spells like that, but most of the spells are there to either steal cards, view cards, or prevent players from stealing your cards, all right? So, put it this way. Imagine if you were playing RuneScape, except instead of the spell book in RuneScape having offensive spells, like wind spells, fire spells, that kind of stuff, imagine every single spell in RuneScape was all about stealing your opponent's shit. You know, stuff that they're wearing, stuff that was in their inventory, maybe even stuff in their bank. Can you imagine how freaking cuckoo that would be to have an RPG like that? Maybe there already is an MMORPG like that. I don't know. I don't play a lot of them. I'm still using RuneScape as an example. I played RuneScape. I played WoW a little bit back in the day. I honestly think those are the only MMOs I've ever played. So it's like that. So it's imagine like Gene is just sitting around like, you know what, it doesn't matter how I plan this game out, how I program it, eventually people are going to want to steal other people's crap, so let's just make that the premise of the game. So that's why in over 10 years of Greed Island, no one has actually gotten all 100 specified slot cards, because even when you start to like, even if you get into the game and you actively want to play it by the rules like Gon and Killua did, all that's going to happen is you're going to get mugged, pretty much, and that's what happened to Gon and Killua. So they were like, you know, we don't want to play the game in this roundabout way. We want to play it in the way that Gene, you know, meant for it to be played, all right? So Gon and Killua start collecting specified slot cards. They get one of them, which was the Sword of Truth, and they were almost immediately just ambushed by a bunch of other players, and they get that card taken from them. That's how it goes, okay? Because nobody actually ever plays the game. It's all about just stealing other people's stuff, all right? So that's the premise of Greed Island. So when you start Greed Island, even though the tutorial lady explained to you have to collect 100 specified slot cards, you can't do that. In fact, it's probably a good idea to not do that at the beginning, because if you don't have any good cards, then that, you know, reduces the chances that other players are going to mess with you, all right? Because there's plenty of spell cards that allow them to see what you have in your binder. So if you have like an S rank or an A ranked card, they're going to know that. There's even another spell card called List, which just tells you how many cards that opponents have, how many like the maximum conversion limits and everything like that. So, first thing you're going to want to do when you get into the game is you're going to want to get your hands on some spell cards. Specifically, you're going to want to get yourself some defensive spells to prevent players from seeing what you have and stealing your stuff. Only after you gain a decent amount of those ones would you even probably have to consider playing the game seriously, okay? Let's go into the different types of spell cards at this point, okay? So, each spell card has two categories that it's part of, all right? One is the range that the spell works at, and the other one is the type of spell. So, in terms of range, there's only two. Short-range spells and long-range spells, that's it. Short-range, as is described in the manga, the manga goes into a little bit more detail about how the spells work, and even in the manga, there's actually this whole page, actually 2 pages, that just go and explain every single spell card in the entire game, all 40 of them. This is why Greed Island is a good arc right here. You know, I don't want to hear anybody saying anything about long text in the Succession War arc right now. Okay, this is prime Togashi right here. It's not even, it's just an Excel spreadsheet pretty much in the manga. All right? Well, anyway, so when it comes to short-range spells, they work within 20 meters around you. That's what's considered your personal space in the game. It's also the space that considers you having met another character. So even if you're traveling through a town, if you actually haven't talked to anybody, if they enter within 20 meters of your perimeter, then you can cast contact on them. You can, you know, communicate with them whenever you want. You can cast magnetic force on them. You can travel to their location. That's the situation with short-range spells, okay? And then we have long-range spells that work pretty much anywhere on the island. So that's like Accompany, that you can travel anywhere you've been previously, or to any character that you've been to previously, okay? So that's the range. Then we have the types. So there's 6 different types. However, I honestly don't think there needs to be 6, because some of the cards, like there's like 40 spells, and there's only one spell that has this one particular type. So they could have probably shortened that down to like maybe 3 or 4. I think that would have been fine. Anyway, we have the most common one, which is a regular spell, and that's just a regular spell. The example there would just be the peek card. So you cast it, and it's short range, and it just allows you to see what your opponent has. Like, that's it. Then we have an attack spell. This is a spell that actively steals cards from your opponent. It's also important to keep in mind, when they say attack, there's no spell card in the game that can physically harm an opponent, all right? That's for the player's Nen abilities to do. Not even Nen abilities. Honestly, the way that this works, you could just walk up to a player with a baseball bat, and you'd be like, give me your cards. It'd be like, no. And then more people with baseball bats appears, like, no, seriously, give us your cards. And like, yeah, all right, book here, take my cards, you know. However, Gene wasn't completely evil, because if you kill a player, you can't actually steal his cards. The reason he put that in place was purportedly so people wouldn't be going around just slaughtering each other for their binders, but it doesn't matter, because you don't have to kill someone, you could just threaten them with bodily harm, you know. Or it's even at the end of the day, because of the conversion limits, even if you kill a player, yeah, you don't get their cards, but if they're like hoarding or monopolizing a bunch of other cards and they die and all their cards disappear, then that limit is raised again, so you can have a better chance of getting them in the spell shops or whatever, right? Well, anyway, back to this. We have defensive spells. Those are pretty simple. Those are spells that prevent you from attack spells working on you. So an example of an attack spell is the spell called Pickpocket, and I have one right here. Okay, so this is Pickpocket right here, and that allows you to steal a card from your opponent's free slots, okay? However, you can counter that with Defensive Wall, which is a defensive spell that allows you to prevent from getting afflicted from attack spells. So there you go. We also have an anti-attack spell, which there's only 2 cards in the entire game that have the category of anti-attack. One is Drawbridge, and the other one is Fortress. Then we have continuous spells. Those are pretty understandable. Those are just spells that have an effect that lasts a long time. An example of that would be Blackout Curtain. That's a spell that allows you to just, your players, the other players cannot see which cards you have, no matter what. So it's a spell that blacks out your binder, and they can't see what you have, okay? And then we have versus spells, which, like I said, there's only 1 card in the entire game that has the category of versus spells. And a versus spell is a spell that counters another attack spell. Doesn't block against it, but like counters it, I guess, which it could just be a defensive spell. The only card in the entire game that has that is Drawbridge. So as I said, most spells have 2 categories, one being, all spells technically have 2 categories, one being the range and then one being the type. There's some that have multiple types. So you could have a spell that's long range, but is also a regular spell and is a defensive spell. You could also have spells like Fortress, which are short range, defensive, anti-attack, and continuous. So there you go, okay? So those are the different classifications of spell cards. Makes sense yet, everybody? Okay. Well, with that all being said, now let's get down to the actual spells themselves, see what they do in the game, and see how this could actually work against other players. All right, let's go. All right, so we're starting with the Peek card. The Peek card allows you to view contents of target players' previously met free slots. So there's just their free slots. Keep in mind, there's the specified slots, which are the 100 cards you need to clear the game, and then your 40 free slots. I think in the anime they said 40 free slots, and in the manga I think it was 45. At any rate, those are the other cards that you're allowed to have, and you can even put specified slots in your free slots, so you can do that as well. There's actually a technique called shuffle guarding in the game, and that's another thing I really love about this arc. Togashi even comes up with little terms. You know how, like, in RuneScape, there'll be little terms that aren't necessarily, like, the official terminology of the game, but players will come up with them in order to, like, serve certain tasks or how to acquire certain items or certain techniques and everything like that. So there's a thing called shuffle guarding in the game, which basically you take a specified slot card, but you don't keep it in the specified slots. You bounce it back and forth between your free slots and your specified. So if a player uses a card card to steal something from your specified slots, they won't be able to get it. So you have to constantly be shifting cards around. It's little things like that. It's like Togashi, you know, he made the game, and then he was like, okay, how can people take advantage of this? How can people take advantage of this game and bend it so that they can, you know, have an advantage over other players? And then he, you know, came up with those terms for it. So that's a pretty cool concept, okay? So yeah, Peak, though, pretty basic. It was like the first spell ever cast in the game. The dude that showed up in front of Killua and Gon casted this to see if Killua had any cards, and it just told him that there's no cards in Killua's free slots, which led the guy to understand, okay, these guys are probably noobs, and I can, you know, just mess with them pretty much. So that's Peak. Now, because there's a card that allows you to see which free slots your opponent has, of course there's a card that allows you to see what their specified slots have, and this is Fluoroscopy. View contents of a previously met target player's designated or specified slots, okay? So you cast this, and then you'll be able to see what your opponent has, and if they have something that's pretty rare, like an A rank, an S rank, or even an SS rank card, then you know, okay, I'm going to mug you, you know, I'm going to beat you up or use my Nen ability on you, just hand over the card, okay? And unless you have the ability to protect against this spell or you have strong Nen abilities of your own, it was honestly actually really funny how everybody in Greed Island was able to use Nen, but there were so many weaklings in the game. Like, remember during the dodgeball game with Razor when they had to bring a bunch of people over to fill out the slots, you know, to challenge Razor and the 14 Devils, and most of them were just like a bunch of dorks that were just like a bunch of nerds that I guess could learn 10 at the least. I think you actually have to know Hatsu to actually activate the game. So they're just like a bunch of dorks that learn Nen but like did nothing with it, and they're just like, oh geez, I don't know, guys, dodgeball game sounds kind of dangerous. It's like, dude, you know Hatsu, learn something. I don't know what to tell you, all right? This is your Nen. You have to work with it, all right? Anyway, that's Fluoroscopy, all right? Next up, we have a card called Defensive... Wait. Oh, these are out of order. Hold on a second. Oh, here we go. Okay. This is a card called Defensive Wall. Protects you from an attack spell. All right. Once. Okay, so only once. So it's not continuous. So you can activate this actually as a security measure. So, because I guess it stays active until an attack spell is used on you. So if I was playing the game, as soon as I got my hands on this thing, I would activate it immediately. Okay? And I guess it also informs you when an attack spell is used and when this card is used up. Okay? So you get your hands on this, I would have Defensive Wall cast all the time. I would get as many as I could in my binder. You know, maybe not like a lot of them, but at least keep like a page, like 9 cards of this at least there, and then I can activate it because there's better cards that do this with a continuous effect. However, getting them is going to be hard because they're a higher rarity. This is a rarity G. It goes from SS, S, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and an H. I think H is the lowest rarity you can get. So G, I mean, it's a little bit higher up there, but still pretty easy to get your hands on, and you can have up to 400 cards activated at the same time with the conversion limit. So I think this is a pretty good bang for your buck. This is like the cheap method of making sure attack spells don't work on you. Of course, an easy way around this is you cast Defensive Wall, and then someone uses an attack spell. It doesn't work, and then they just use another attack spell. Now, it is specified in the manga that whenever somebody uses an attack spell against you, and if you have your binder open, and if you have a defensive spell in your binder, then the game will give you a 15-second grace period to activate the defensive spell. So it's not like instant. It's like, I cast Pickpocket, and it's like you have 15 seconds to realize, like, okay, he's casting Pickpocket. Do I want to use Defensive Wall? Do I want him just to left of me see the free slots? Maybe I can move some stuff around, use the Shuffle Guard or whatever. Or I'm going to use this, or I'm going to use another card, right? So that's the basic way the game works there. Next up, we have Reflect. Reflect is a defensive spell. Reflects an attack spell from a player previously met. All right, so this reflects the attack spell back at them. So if they use Pickpocket against you to steal one of your free slots, and you activate this card, then it bounces back, and then you get one of their free slots. And I believe this is the same as Defensive Wall. Reflects an attack spell from a player previously met. Maybe you can't activate these prior, but then again, that's getting into a mechanic Togashi never explained. I guess maybe only continuous cards last continuously, but the way that it's worded, it's like, okay, this will stay active until an attack spell is used against you. Next up, we have a spell that's not used quite as often as Accompany, which is the much more common transportation spell we see in the story, and it's the one that Gon took out of the game, but this is Magnetic Force. It's essentially the teleport spell, and it works to any location you've previously been or any person that you've previously met. And as we've explained, meeting a person in Greed Island simply means walking within a 20 meter distance around them, like an entire circumference around you, okay? So you can activate this card and you can look in your binder, you'll see a list of everybody you've met, and it's like, oh, I want to go to that person's location. This is actually pretty handy when you want to go to like a secret location. Like the way that it works in the manga is, remember that group at the beginning that Genthru just completely obliterated with his countdown ability? They had a secret hideout in a cave, and the way that you gain access to the secret hideout was not using Magnetic Force or Accompany on the hideout. It was using the spell on a person that was like around the hideout, and then that person had to show you where it was. So it was like a safeguard to like finding the location, okay? But Magnetic Force only works with one person, so you can only travel yourself to another town or a person. That's it. Then Accompany, you can travel with a lot of people, okay? But the same basic spell. Next up, we have Pickpocket. I've used this as an example a lot in this video. It just allows you to steal a random card from a target player's free pocket. So remember, it's a random card. You don't know what you're getting, but once again, it's pretty cheap, and pretty much anybody can get their hands on these from the spell shops in Macedora. Next up, we have Thief. So just like how Pickpocket worked against the free slots, Thief works on the designated slots. But once again, it's random, so you don't know what you're going to be getting. It's also a rank C card, so it's pretty high up there. I believe the way it works in Macedora, when you buy a pack of spell cards, you only get 3 in a pack, and they're like 10,000 Jenny each, which is like 10,000 yen. Yen and Jenny work the same in Greed Island. It's like the same currency, except the Jenny has to be in card form in order to use it. It's really complicated with the money in Greed Island. But the point is that, you know, this card is fairly rare, so getting it is like, okay, I can steal a random designated slot, but that's also really good because you're going to need all 100 anyway. So I would imagine this card would work really well in the early game when you don't have any cards, and if you go to Macedora and you find this, I would just use it anyway because you're going to grab something that you could use in the designated slots. All right. Next up is 1008. We have Trade. Swaps a card the caster owns to a target player's card randomly. All right, this one seems like it's a little bit of a high risk, high reward kind of thing because it, I guess, takes both cards randomly. It doesn't really specify if the card you pick is also random or you get to choose what you trade. I'm thinking they're both random because that makes it the most fair. And also, this isn't really that high ranking of a card. It's only an E rank. So I guess it's just a random card. It's not even designated or free slots. It's just a random card that you own, too. So literally, it can just be like zip, zap, and that's all you get, okay? So you could trade one of your, like if you have a really high-ranked, like, Angel's Breath card, that could be swapped to your opponent, and then you could literally get, like, a rock that they had in their free slots, and that's it. That's another thing, too. That's another term. It's called slot guarding. So you can turn, like, anything into Greed Island into a card, even, like, rocks and stuff you pick up off the ground, okay? And that's actually what Gon did, and it seems useless, but it's actually pretty useful, because if you take these random things you find, add them to your free slots, somebody casts a spell to steal a card from your free slots, they might just risk their chances of, like, their chances of getting, like, a completely useless rock or something, you know, and that's all they end up getting. So that's another way to protect yourself without using spells in this game. I learned that from the chapter, How to Defend Yourself Without Using Spells in This Game. That's literally the name of a chapter in Greed Island. Next up is a very useful card. So Trade was not used very often in the anime, but this next card certainly was. This is Return. Allows the caster to fly to a previously visited location. So this is one of the very popular transportation spells in the game. Allows you to fast travel to any city that you've been to previously. And I think it only works on towns. So it doesn't work the same way as Magnetic Force and Accompany where you can pick a person. It has to be a town. Now, there was something in the manga that they actually included, not in the anime, that there's a downside to this. Whatever town you end up in, it's the same location. You arrive at the opening, like the gates of the town that you wanted to go to, all right? Which means it's the prime opportunity for people to ambush you there. So, for example, most people would be using this card to go to Macedora. Macedora is the city of magic. That's where everybody buys spell cards. That's like the one place everybody goes. So, you could just honestly scope out the gates of Macedora and just hide in the bushes, and then when somebody uses return, they're all land in that same location, which means you could just jump out and be like, give me your cards, you know, and it's like, ah, damn it, all right, here you go, you know. So you got to be careful with this sort of stuff in the game, because it's like these are set locations that everybody knows you arrive at, all right? This isn't like in RuneScape, where, well, maybe it might be more like RuneScape during the Falador Massacre. That's kind of what this is about, where you can attack people in towns, but no, you can attack people and use attack spells anywhere in this game. It can be out in the wilderness, it can be in the towns. You're not really safe anywhere, okay? So that's another thing. Gene really knew what he was doing. All right. Next up is a really cool card. This is Transform, or Mimic. Transforms a card into a copy of a target card that the caster already owns. This fails if the card's maximum conversion limit is already exceeded. All right, now this card itself is an A rank, and it's 20 conversion limit maximum. Okay, so this is a pretty valuable card. It allows you to turn any card into another card that you already have to make a duplicate. All right, you can't do it if the conversion limit is reached, but still, pretty damn useful card. This was part of the combo that Gon used in order to bring Accompany off of the island. He used Transform on Accompany to turn it into Plot of Beach, and then he added Plot of Beach into the binder to leave the island, and then he used his Paladin's Necklace right here to negate the effects of Transform, turning it back into Accompany. All right, so pretty useful card. It can only be a card that you previously have, though, so you can make a duplicate of something, which might also be useful if someone wants to steal like a really valuable S-rank card from you. You can use this to make it a fake, and then it gets sent to them, and you still have the original. So there you go. There's something. Next up, going along with that line, this is the card known as Clone. Change into one random card from target player's specified slots. If the opponent has no specified slots or the max is reached, then Clone disappears. This was a card that was very useful at the end game of Greed Island when they got Angel's Breath. They used Clone to make a bunch of different copies of it so they can use it to heal a bunch of people. So Gon and Killua and Sub and Bara and Genthru, they were like basically got 6 copies of Angel's Breath using Clone. All right, so this is another very, very valuable card. However, it's not as rare as Mimic. This card only has a D rank, and it's 70 conversion limit. So you can use this to make a bunch of duplicates of even really highly valuable cards. Let's see. Next up, we have Relegate. Make the player fly somewhere on the island. So this is kind of like the Tele-Other spell from RuneScape that allows you to, like, send another person, like, anywhere that you choose, you know, like to Varrock or something. So that's Relegate. So I can't remember because I never really used the Tele-Other spells because those were high level. But in RuneScape, when you cast Tele-Other on another person, does it give them the option to approve of it, or do they just get sent flying off wherever? I think it gives them the option, like, hey, another player wants to teleport you here. Are you okay with that? And you could say yes or no. I think this, like, forces the player to go. So it's like, relegate on Sufrabi, and then it's like, wait, what? And then you get sent flying off to Sufrabi. You don't get a choice. Yeah, so there's that. That's a pretty powerful card to mess with people. This is a card that I don't think is ever actually shown in the anime or the manga, but its existence is implied multiple times. This is Origin. Make the player fly off to the game's starting point. So remember how no matter what your data is, your memory card or whatever like that, wherever progress you've made in the game, every time you leave Greed Island and come back, you always end up in the middle of that grassy prairie at the Shiso tree, which is that building. You walk down the steps. That's where you end up every time you enter the game, no matter what. Okay, you can't choose a starting point. So Origin allows you to return to that starting point whenever you desire. This is used a lot of times in the game, I think, because there's a lot of times when people have to go back to the starting point to, like, await another player arriving in, or for any various reasons if they want to leave the game or come back in and wait for somebody. So Origin is probably used quite a bit. It's just never really, I think, shown in the anime. Next up, we have Leave. This is a very, very valuable card. Originally, when it was talked about, like, Greed Island, it was stated that once you get into the game, you can't leave. And even when Gon entered the game with the save data, Gene came on and he was like, you know, I don't know what brought you here to Greed Island, but it doesn't matter because you won't be able to leave unless you find a certain item or you have a certain card, okay? So I originally assumed that when you get to Greed Island, you're not going to be able just to leave. You're stuck in the game until you win. And that was, like, led to believe because there was a lot of other players that were in the game for a very, very long time. However, it's not that it's impossible to leave or you have to beat the game in order to leave. You can leave as long as you get Leave, which is the spell card. Problem is, it's a rank B, and it's pretty valuable. So if you get your hands on this, a lot of players might also want to like beat you up to take it. There is another method to leave the island, but it involves you basically going to this harbor, and there's a harbor master there, and if you physically beat him in a fight, he'll give you a ticket to leave. You can also bribe him if you're not physically powerful, but the bribe is going to be a lot of money, and if you don't have money for the bribe, and if you're not powerful enough to beat him, he literally just gives you an endless string of quests. So be like, oh yes, I can give you a ticket off the island. Just go and collect me 500 apples from the grove. And you're like, okay, and you go and you collect 500 apples. Like, well, that was a good task, but you know, I need you to go and do my laundry for the week. It's like, all right, but you can only do my laundry in the sacred pond that's up the mountain a ways. It's like, all right, you come back, here's your laundry, sir. You know what? I'm feeling like some fresh coffee, but I only want it brewed from a specific kind of bean that grows literally on the other side of the island on top of a mountain. All right, here's your coffee, sir. Yeah. You know, I feel like he just literally does that. My God, Gene is devious. It's just like, can you imagine? Be like, I'll just keep doing tasks for him. He'll eventually let me leave the island, right? No, you physically have to beat him up or give him a lot of money. That's the only way you're getting off the island, or you can get leave, but it's pretty rare, so yeah, that's how it is. Next up, we have Clairvoyance. See all card data of the target player. So this one is pretty good. See all card data of the target player. Yeah, that's pretty simple. However, it's not continuous. It is a good card, but once you activate it and you see their data, you can't go back and look at that data later on. I think there's other cards that are better, that are higher rarity, that allow you to basically know everything that your opponent gets, you know, in the future after you cast it until it's dispelled or until they leave the game. Whenever you leave a game, if you have a spell that's afflicting you and then you come back, the spell is removed, okay? But, yeah, it's pretty good. It's a D rank, so you could use that for stuff. Next up, we have Drift. This card was also something that was used at the very, very end of the game by Killua. It allows you to go to a random unvisited town. If all towns have been visited, then this card just is destroyed. So, once again, early game card. If you get your hands on Drift, there's an F rank, and there's 200 of them. So, I'm sure if you can get your hands on this, I would just cast it just all the time. Just drift on. You just go, okay, this is a town. Because once you reach that town, then it's opened up with Accompany, Magnetic Force, Return, all that kind of jazz. So I would spam as many drifts as I could in the beginning of the game, and eventually this card would be useless once you've explored every single town on Greed Island. Once again, something that I think was revealed in the manga and not so much in the anime was the size of Greed Island. It's a fairly decently sized island. It's about the size of Hokkaido in real world Japan, okay, the island of Hokkaido. So that's basically what you're working with there. Next up, we have Collision. Fly to the location of a random player the caster has not met. If all other players have been met, player stays at the same place and the card disappears. So, I mean, like, the odds of that happening, though, I mean, you'd have to be in the game for a very, very long time to meet every single person and have this not work. So, Collision just allows you to slam into another player you've never met. This was a card that was used, actually, by the Phantom Troops. So, remember when Finks and Phaeton, they killed the dude that we saw at the beginning of the game? The guy that first met Killua and Gon, that used Trace on Killua and everything. So Finks and Phaeton casted Collision once, slammed into that guy, and then they just killed him because they're, you know, the members of the Phantom Troops. So there you go. But yeah, Collision, I mean, I guess there's some usefulness to that, or maybe if you just want to, like, see what a random person has in the game. I guess it might also be a thing, like, if you've been in the game for a long time and you've met kind of everybody, but then new people enter the game, you can cast Collision to meet those new players and see if they have anything good or see if they're strong or whatever, and you can cast something to see what they're going to get later, because there's spells that allow you to track other players. There you go. Next up, we have, oh, this was a card that was used a lot, Levy. Take one random card from each player within a 20-meter radius. So once again, the 20-meter radius thing being relevant here. This is a B rank, so this is pretty high. This is high-ranked stuff right here. Yeah, so you just cast it, Levy on, and then you take a random card from everybody in the city. So literally, you could just be walking around town, minding your own business. You're not really alerting everybody of your presence. You're, like, keeping a pretty low profile. and then all of a sudden you just get a card stolen. Like Levy, like, oh, son of a... You know what I mean? Now, it's a pretty rare card, but still, like, that can just happen to you in the game. Imagine if you're in, like, RuneScape or something, and you get, like, your Abyssal Whip, and it's like, oh, man, I finally got my Abyssal Whip from the Grand Exchange. This is great. And it's gone. Huh. Yeah, so that's the kind of jazz we're working with there. Next up, we have Drawbridge. This is one of the few cards in the game. I think there's only 2 spells that have 4 categories. So Drawbridge is a short-range defensive spell, anti-attack spell, and versus spell, all rolled up into one package. Protect once against a short-range regular spell from another player. Protect once from a short-range regular spell from another player. Okay. I guess this could work against Peak and Fluoroscopy, so it doesn't work on attack spells. I guess, okay. I guess this is the spell that works on everything except attack, but no, because it's an anti-attack spell, so I guess it does? But wait, wasn't there a card that did this better earlier on? Hold on a second. Defensive Wall protects you from an attack spell once, and Drawbridge protects once against a short-range regular spell. So this is just a shittier version of Defensive Wall, then. I can see why this wasn't used in the game. Next up, we have Fake. Fake transforms into one of the cards from the 1 to 99 specified slots. The resulting card can be inserted into an imposed slot, but does not count towards a complete card set or the card copy limit, nor can it be converted into an object. So basically what this does is this is used to troll other people in the game. So you activate this, and it turns into a fake. So you can activate this, and it's like, you know, fake on, and it whoosh, it turns into an Angel's Breath, and you can put the Angel's Breath into your specified slot, but you can't actually use the effect, and it doesn't count for you beating the game. However, if somebody uses a spell to look to see what cards you have, they're going to see that you have this, and then they'll cast a spell to steal it, and then they find out that it's just a fake. I imagine this probably happens a lot in the game, where people are casting fake, and then you see, it's like, oh my god, this guy's got a freaking patch of forest, or a patch of beach, I needed that, you know, activate steal, sure, I got it, oh crap, it's just a fake, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I imagine this probably happens a lot in the game, using fake. You control a lot of people with that. Next up is Mug. Mug is one of the higher ranked cards that allows you to just take one card at will from a target player. That's all. Take one card at will. It can be a free slot, specified slot, and it seems like it's not random. You know which cards you're going to get. So this is the card to have. If anything else fails, if you want to get your hands on a good attack spell that can actually get a card that you want, and you know your opponent has it, cast Peek, see they have something you want, cast Mug, is like, I will take that Paladin's Necklace. I have Paladin's Necklace. Great. And then you leave. And then he's like, return on, Macedora. Suck it, noob. And then you're out of there, right? This could happen. Like, you're in the game, you're playing the game, you're trying to win, you're like, oh, this is fun. Oh, cool, I got an A-ranked card. Boom, Mug on. Thank you, bye. Noob. Freaking idiot. Like, that's the kind of crap that'll happen. All right. All right, now these next few cards are kind of complicated, so bear with me. These next 3 cards have a lot of text. The next 2 ones are actually worse. There are a lot of text on these cards, okay? And it took me a while to read these cards to really understand what they do. But they are pretty interesting. Okay, so first up, we have, wait a second. Okay, first up, we have Corruption. All right, Corruption. Transform one B-ranked card or above from the target player into a D-ranked card or below. Okay, so first of all, when you just, like, that's just the first sentence, okay? So you cast this, and you pick a card that your opponent has that's a B-ranked card or higher, and then it transforms into a new card that's D-ranked or below. After the transformation, the card counts toward the maximum limit of the new type. If that limit is already reached, then the card is just destroyed. Or if the player has nothing above a B ranked, then it's destroyed as well. After the transformation, if the card is in an imposed slot with a wrong number, it is automatically destroyed. Okay, here's what this does. Let's say you've collected a fair amount of specified slot cards. Okay, you got a good amount. And you know what? Getting some of those specified slot cards is pretty damn hard. Like I said, you got to collect all 40 spells just to get an Angel's Breath, for God's sakes. There's others that allow you to empty out your entire card binder, give all the money you have to get one specified slot card. I mean, there's a lot of these cards that require a lot from you, okay? So imagine you work your ass off to get a card, and you're like, okay, I've been working 3 weeks to get this specified slot card. I finally have it. I'm going to place it in my binder. And then somebody activates this and turns it into another card. And because it's another card that's no longer the like, let's say it's specified slot number 32, you put it in 32. Well, after this transformation, it's not 32 anymore, and it's just destroyed. Okay? My God. My God. You would just be like, ah! I'm going to murder you. Just, like, that's the kind of, I mean, that's why you need defensive spells, man. I mean, it's a cruel world out there. It's called Greed Island for a reason. Gene wasn't lying when he called it that, all right, man? That's not even about greed. That's just wrath right there. That's just wrath. That's like you're not even stealing the card. You're just ruining it for another player. So you're not even benefiting from this. I mean, I guess in the long run you are because they have a less of a chance of beating the game, but you're not getting any of their cards. You're just destroying them, okay? That's messed up. Here's another one. It's not as bad, but it's the kind of the same basic premise. Okay, compromise. Choose and destroy one A-ranked card or above from the target player. That player then obtains a card of 3 ranks lower than the destroyed card and of the number of his choosing. If target player has no above A ranks, then it's destroyed. Maximum conversion limit also destroyed. All right, so this one is weird. So you use this on a player, and an A-ranked card or higher is destroyed, which that's really valuable. However, you're guaranteed to get a card, that's 3 ranks lower. So if it is an A-ranked card, well, no, it says one above an A-ranked card. So let's say let's just say it's Angel's Breath, which is an SS rank card, okay? So it'd be S-A-B. So you get this card destroyed, which was very hard to obtain, but in exchange, you can now get any B-ranked card of your choice from the entire game, all right? Which probably not going to make you feel any better, but this might actually work not so much against an enemy, but let's say you're in a group. Like, so you have like a group of 5 people playing the game together, like you're working together to collect the cards. If you really need a B-ranked card that you just can't find, because some of the specified slot cards might be B ranks that are just really hard to obtain, you could use compromise on one of your fellow like teammates and be like, okay, Jim, here's what's going to happen. We're going to destroy one of your A-ranked cards, but in exchange for that, we're going to get any B-ranked card we want in the game. So what you could actually do is you could give like so that Jim only has one A-ranked card in his binder, and then that's destroyed, and then he can pick whatever, and then you have that for the whole group, okay? I guess you could do something with that there. Next up, we have Dispel. Dispel returns all cards from a target player transformed with Fake, Clone, or Mimic to their original form, all right? So this negates the effects of Fake or Clone. It turns the card back to normal. It's kind of like Paladin's Necklace. Where's Paladin's Necklace? It's kind of like Paladin's Necklace, except this is a one-of, and this is like a permanent effect that Gon just has the necklace that he could just use whenever, okay? So, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, this is pretty good. This is the card. This is the cheap equivalent to get rid of a spell, okay? So if you have Trace cast on you so somebody always knows where you're at, or if you have some spell that allows, it's like, oh, man, somebody knows which cards I have at all time, I can cast this, and I can just remove that effect from me. It's a D rank, so not that hard to get your hands on. I guess fairly hard. Moderately difficult to get your hands on, but not too bad. Next up is Blackout Curtain. 1025. Used to protect oneself against the effects of Peek and Fluoroscopy. It's continuous. So you activate this card, and until you leave the game, or I guess Dispel would not work on this because Dispel specifically mentions only 3 cards it works on. So if you cast this, it remains on you until you leave the game and come back. So you can cast Blackout Curtain, and nobody can only use Peek and Fluoroscopy. So it's useful, certainly, but a lot of people have spells that are stronger than those. But once again, it's only F rank. So if you find this card in the spell shop, use it immediately. And be like, all right, at least it'll prevent me from, like, they can't see what I have, all right? So you won't be able to have cast a spell on you like, oh, I know what card you have. You have, Wild Luck Alexandrite, so I'm going to cast a spell to steal that. Like, they don't know what you have. So they might have an attack spell to steal something from you, but they don't know what they're getting, all right? So keep that in mind as well. I keep saying keep that in mind. Like, when you guys inevitably play Greed Island, when this happens, actually, you know what? I am surprised there is not a Greed Island video game. Like, I don't know who has the rights to make Hunter x Hunter video games. I guess it's Bondi or whoever. Does Bondi make video games? I'm assuming they do. I don't know. Whoever has the rights to this, though, please just make a Greed Island video game. Like, just do it. Like, I don't even think it would be really that hard. You know what I mean? Go like, oh, Ghost of Tsushima with it. Okay, Ghost of Tsushima is a pretty good game. Yeah, it's not that hard to make a game like Ghost of Tsushima. But no, seriously, open world game where you're on an island and you all have binders, and you go around and you collect stuff from players. I don't know if it would work too well on the PlayStation, but an online MMO based on Greed Island, that could work. It would be a complete shit show when it came to people stealing their crap, but that's kind of what Gene intended. That's kind of what Togashi intended, for it to be a shit show. So, yeah, go ahead. The MMORPG Greed Island. Make it happen, who's ever in charge of this. Next up is Holy Water. Protects the player 10 times from attack spells from other players. This card is immune to steal and destruction. All right, this is the card you want right here. This is the one you want to get your hands on, all right? It's an A rank card, so it's pretty rare, but it's continuous, and it protects you 10 times against any attack spell. That's the one you want. So if you get your hands on a Holy Water, you know, you're good. You'll be okay for a little while there, all right? Next up, we have Trace. This was another card that was used at the very beginning of the game. Trace. Current location of one target player will be available at all times. The effect lasts until the player leaves the game. So that's what that dude used against Killua at the beginning. He's like, if Killua doesn't have any cards, but I'll cast Trace on him, and if he gets any cards, then I'll know about it, all right? So at least I'll know his current location. I won't know what cards he gets, but I'll know right where he is, and then I can cast Magnetic Force or Accompany, and I can go to right where he is, and I know what town he's going to be in, okay? This also helps him figure out, like, Killua is in Macedora right now. He must be trying to get spell cards today. You know, you can kind of plan that kind of stuff out. Yeah. Next up. Okay, so the name of the card here on the wiki is, I think, Rock Toss, but I think the name of the card, I think it just means, like, Boulder Throw or something. Destroy one random card in target player's free slots. Pretty simple. This is also kind of an FU sort of card. It just be like, activate, you know, Rock Toss. It just destroys something you have. And it's just like, oh, shit. And going along with that line, we have Bullet. All right, now this, okay. In the wiki, it says bullet, but it's very clearly like a ballista, like a crossbow, like a giant crossbow. So the other version of this, I think, just means shot or fire, okay? Destroy one random card in the imposed slots or the specified slots. So once again, another FU card. I don't know, though. I feel like corruption is worse because you get to see the card turn into another card and then be destroyed, whereas this card just destroys it outright. So these cards are honestly like, Rock Toss is only an E rank, and Bullet or Shot is only a B rank. So, I mean, like, it's hard to get your hands on. It's about the same rarity as Leave, but it's not super impossible. So you could use this just to destroy cards. Although when you get this, I feel like you should kind of keep it, you know, with you. You know what I mean? It also kind of makes me wonder, like, at the end of the game, when Gon had collected all 100, all those other players showed up. Why didn't one of them just do, like, Bullet, psh, you can't clear the game now. Now, I think the reason they didn't do that was because of the reward money. They were like, hey, Gon, we're going to make a deal with you. You beat the game, you get the money, we'll, you know, cut in for a share or something. But, like, you know, you could just use this to, like, ruin somebody's like, okay, I have 98 specified slot cards, and this will be number 99. Shot on, psh. You know, like, God. Next up, we have Guidepost. Give away locations of the chosen number. Not available for number 000. So number 0 is Ruler's Blessing, which is the card you get at the end of the game when you beat the quiz. So there's really no location for it. But Guidepost will show you where you obtain the card. So if there's a card in the specified slot that you just have no idea where to get, you've gone all over the map, you've talked to all the NPCs, you've listened to all the riddles, you've paid attention to everybody, you can't figure out where card number 3 is or whatever. It's like, where is this thing? You can activate Guidepost on number 3, and it'll tell you, it's in Antokiba or whatever. It's like, okay, I'll go to Antokiba. Now, it doesn't tell you specifically where you get it. It's just, it's in this town, all right? So it narrows it down at least. Still got to walk through the whole town to find out where it is. Next up, we have Analysis. Show explanation on card of the chosen number. Once again, not available for number 0. Number 0 is kind of special because you don't get it until the very end, so it's very mysterious. So analysis just allows you to see the description of what the card does. So if you don't know what a spell or if you don't know what a specified slot card does, like I don't know what, you know, number 25 risky dice does, then you just cast this on number 25 and it gives you the explanation of it's a dice that you roll and it gives you good luck or bad luck. There you go. So analysis could be useful. Oh, this is a fun one. Lottery. Transform into a random item card. Okay, so this card allows you to just activate, like the lottery. It's like a lottery ticket. Lottery on, and then it just transforms into a random specified slot card. I think it's specified slot. It's just random item card, which I'm not sure if that entails. It's not a spell, so it wouldn't turn into a spell. It would turn into an item. So the way that they used this in the game was that Team Genthru basically captured some random players and then forced them to roll risky dice and then forced them to activate lottery. And then, you know, lottery, because of the risky dice, will turn into something that's an A rank or an S rank or higher. I still think there's limitations. Maybe you can get any card in the game, but the odds are about the same as playing an actual lottery ticket. You know what I mean? Like if I went out and bought a Powerball ticket right now, the odds of winning the jackpot, like $500 million, the odds of winning are like 37 million or something like that. So maybe you can activate lottery and win Patch of Forest or Strip of Beach or Angel's Breath, like some of the really, really S-ranked cards. But the odds of you winning those are like in the millions upon millions. And even if you rolled with a risky dice, your odds of getting it are pretty low. So that's what lottery is, though. It's basically a lottery ticket. And it's a G-ranked card, so, you know, I mean, you could get it fairly easily, and you could just sit around just be like, lottery on, crap. Lottery on, crap. Lottery on, crap. You just be doing that all over again, like scratch-offs or whatever, right? Don't gamble, kids. All right, next up, we have Cling or Adhesion. The complete data of one player's restricted slots will be available at all times. Effect lasts until the player leaves the game. This is an example of a card that should be a continuous spell, but it's not a continuous spell. It's only an attack spell. So you activate this, and you know this is the better version of like Trace, where you'll know exactly what a player will have in their specified slots at all times, okay? And so you'll know what they get. So you activate this, and he's like, oh, I know which cards you got, and then I can steal them at my own leisure, or I can beat you up, or use my Nen ability, or whatever. Next up is Purify. Dispel effect of transformation spell and return the card to its original form. If after the transformation, you know, maximum conversion limit, it's destroyed, blah, 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 blah. So this is like a weaker version of Dispel, I guess. Hold on, what was Dispel? Dispel was a D rank. This is a D rank too. Return all cards from target player with Fake, Clone, or Mimic. So this is the same thing, except it only works on one card, except instead of all the cards. So it's a crappier version of Dispel. Gotcha. Okay. Sometimes I'm reading these effects and I'm like, okay, maybe Tagashi was kind of sleepy when he came up with those ones. Maybe he was like, I need to figure out all these other cards. This is one that purifies, whatever. It's like he might have been a little sleepy on some of these. Next up is a very important one, though. Fortress or Prison. Cards inserted into slots on target imposed page are permanently protected against stealing and destruction as long as they remain in the slots. So you activate this card, and on one entire page of your binder, none of the cards can be destroyed. So if you cast it on the first page, all cards from 1 through 9 cannot be destroyed, cannot be swapped, cannot be removed. The same thing with any other page. However, Fortress has a maximum conversion of 10, and it's already an S-rank spell, okay? So I guess, in theory, it would be possible for one person to obtain and monopolize every single copy of Fortress in the game. You have all 10, and then you use it on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, wait. 11. There's 11 pages of specified slot cards, actually. So if there's 11 pages, then even if you did monopolize every single copy of Fortress, which is not going to happen because it's an S-rank card, you will not be able to protect every single specified slot card you had. I mean, you'd be pretty damn close, and you'd be pretty good at chance of beating the game. But yeah, that's like the best way you can possibly do. So I guess the best card in the game, one of the best defensive spells in the game is this. This probably is the best defensive spell in the entire game. But it's really hard to get a hand on. Let's see. Eye of God. Oh, this is the coolest one. I use this for the thumbnail because it looks so damn sweet. Eye of God. Caster permanently obtains the effects of list and analysis. So Eye of God is like the best clairvoyance spell in the entire game, where you basically know every card that everybody has, how many of those cards they have, and you know what the cards do. So Eye of God is very valuable. This was the card that Shalnark wanted to get his hands on. After Shalnark went into the game and was messing around a little bit and figured out that Greed Island was like a real island and this is how the game works, he's like, okay, you could probably steal the cards and get them off the island, so we need to find Eye of God to find out who has what, and then we steal them because we're the Phantom Troop, and then we get off the island, and then we have all these cards. That was the initial plan, but didn't really work out too well because of Razor. Don't mess with Razor. So next we have, I didn't even know this card existed, and it's crazy. This is Recycle. Allows an item converted from a card to be changed into a card once more. Limited to cards of rank C and below, and if the maximum limit is existing, then it'll be destroyed. So in Greed Island, the way it works is when you obtain a card, you can use Gain to activate the effect. However, you cannot turn it back into a card unless you have Recycle. I didn't even know there was a mechanism to allow you to do that in the game, right? But there is, and it's a relatively low-ranked card. However, it can only work on cards from C rank below. So the really good cards in the game, the ones that are like high-level specified slots that have really, really good effects that you would love to reuse, you can't use with this. Like Recycling Room, really handy card. Recycling Room is letter S. So, you can't, turn that back into a card again. But for a lot of other things, this would be very, very useful. This is list. Reveals the number of people in possession of the target card as well as the total number of copies. Okay. 1039, we have Accompany. This just allows you to transport to any location or person you've previously been or previously met, and everybody else around you within a 20-meter radius. I would say just be careful when you cast this, because if there's somebody around you that you don't know, maybe they're hiding in the bushes, they're going to get sent flying with you. But the 20-meter radius rule applies to this. This is a card that's used a lot, and it's the card that Gon took out of the game to try to go meet Gene, his dad. The last card in the spell card slot is Contact. This is a card that is used a lot. It's used in like every single episode of the Greed Island arc. Contact allows you to just simply call another player. Okay, because I guess you're not allowed to have cell phone reception in Greed Island or whatever. So it allows you to contact another player for a duration of 3 minutes. And as an interesting quirk, the person casting this is the only person allowed to end the call. So if somebody casts this on you, you have to listen to them for up to 3 minutes. You're not allowed to end the call on your end. So that could be kind of annoying, right? So players use this to communicate. Players use this to be like, hey, you want to trade? Meet me in Macedora in 20 minutes. You have number 72. I have number 41. We'll trade it. There you go. So that's what Contact's used for in the game. Now, those are all the spell cards. However, if anybody that watched the first video will know, there are some specified slots near the end that have the effects of spell cards as well. Now, I skipped over most of them because we weren't talking about the spells at that point, but now we get to these cards, all right? So these are specified slots, and I actually think it starts with the Paladin's Necklace. So the Paladin's Necklace is the card that Gon got, and a player wearing this will reflect curses cast upon him and unable to do curses placed upon him. So this is basically the permanent Dispel card, okay? So if you get any card that is fake or transform, this will able to, reverse the effect, and it's permanent because it's a necklace that you physically wear all the time, okay? So that's what I mean about these cards having the effects of that. So continuing on, we have Scapegoat or Sacrifice Armor. Renders ineffective any attack by a weapon reverted from a card. Beware, as it will randomly break sometime within the first 100 attacks. So like I said, this is a card not very useful out there in the real world, but in the game, extraordinarily useful, okay? So if somebody uses a weapon that turned into a card, I bet Genthru kind of wishes he had this when he went up against Gon. Because Gon used the giant boulder to try to crush him, and I guess using this card, Genthru could have survived. But wait, didn't Genthru have every card at that point? I think Genthru was an idiot, guys. I think he didn't know how to use this. Although, it does say, beware, as it will randomly break sometime within the first 100 attacks. So maybe Genthru had this card, and he's like, oh, a giant rock about to crush me? It's okay, I got Scapegoat Armor. Scapegoat Armor is destroyed. Oh, crap. So, yeah, there you go. Next up is Quiver of Frustration, number 86. You can cast as many leaves as you have arrows. It comes with 10 arrows, and one will be used each time you cast leave. So it summons a quiver of arrows that allow you to leave the game whenever you want. Considering how we talked about how leave is such a valuable card, this card is insanely useful. It's almost like it's used to send other people out of the game. All right, so I have the Quiver of Frustration. I can send you out of the game. I can send you out of the game whenever you want. Or I guess if you're really frustrated, you're like, ah, damn it, leave. Okay, I'm back. Oh, you're like soft resetting Greed Island. Like this is the best thing you have to soft reset is using Quiver of Frustration. Also, the way that it phrases it, you can cast as many leaves as you have arrows. It comes with 10 arrows. That seems to imply you can get more arrows. I guess if you have another Quiver of Frustration, it'll give you another set of 10 arrows. So you have the quiver that can contain as many arrows as I guess it'll fit, maybe 30, 40, maybe 50, who knows, and you can just have them. Next up is Shield of Faith. This spell, this spell's Relegate, Return, Drift, and Collision will be rendered ineffective within a meter of 20 meters of the player. So when you have Shield of Faith active as an item, players cannot use Return, Drift, Collision, or Relegate within a distance of you. So this is the teleblock spell, kind of. A little bit. Like in RuneScape, where, oh, I've been bitten by that hardcore. Has anyone else been bitten by that crap? So in RuneScape, you can be in the wilderness, and you can't teleport within a certain distance of the wilderness. But if you're like kind of like in the low-level wilderness, you can teleport just fine. But there's a spell that players can cast to prevent you from teleporting. So I'll be training in a dungeon or something, and it'll be like, okay, I'm just here in like level 3 wilderness, not that big of a deal, just collecting red spider eggs or whatever for a quest. And then some dude will just show up like level 150 and just be like attacking me. And I'm like, oh, come on, dude. Do you really have to teleport? Up, teleblocked, shit, dead. And it's like, God, really, man? So that's kind of, this is the teleblock spell. Although you can still use Magnetic Force and Accompany. Just Collision, Relegate, Return, Drift, and Collision. So yeah, there's that. Next up is Eternal Hammer. Anyone hit with this hammer will be afflicted with one random attack spell and cannot defend him or herself with a defensive spell. However, it will not work on someone using Fortress or Paladin's Necklace. I'm glad that they included the exception, making Fortress, as I said, the best defensive spell in the game. So even this, that can use any attack. So it's like Metronome in Pokemon, but except for any attack spell. But even then, it's like, oh, even defenses won't work on this, but this will. So you got to have Fortress. Get yourself a Fortress. But yeah, Eternal Hammer is pretty cool. So you can just use it in just any attack spell. Next up is Tax Collector's Gauntlet. It allows you to cast Levy. However, it will destroy one random specified slot from your binder every time. You cannot cast it if your specified slots are empty. So you can use basically Levy, not infinitely, but pretty much as long as you have specified slots, you have an infinite amount of levies, okay? Which allows you to randomly steal cards within a 20-meter radius of you. However, every time you use this, one of your specified slots is going to get destroyed. So, high risk, high return, you might get something really good, you know? If somebody had this card, though, in, like, however, I will say, once again, if, like, a real jerk got their hands on this card, they would just be walking through town being like, I don't even care about finishing the game. Tax Collector's Gauntlet, whoop, 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 just like burning through your specified slots. Like, I don't even care anymore. I don't even care about this anymore. I'm just stealing everybody's crap. And everyone's like, ah, damn it. Just like ruining people's lives. Okay, so there's that. Oh, this is a cool looking one. Bandit's Blade. Bandit's Blade. A successful attack with this weapon will cast Mug, Pickpocket, or Thief on the target. Not effective on Fortress or Paladin's Necklace. So I guess it summons an actual sword, like, or a dagger, a blade, and then you stab somebody with it, and then they'll be afflicted with Mug, Pickpocket, or Thief. Obviously, the best one out of those three would be Mug, because it's the one that lets you choose which card you're going to get. And it's a blade that you have that you can physically keep reusing, keep re-stabbing with. Okay? So pretty useful. S-rank card. Blackout Curtain. No, not Blackout Curtain. Secret Cape that allows you to, you will be under the effects of Blackout Curtain while wearing this cape, all right? So, this is pretty cool. It allows you to just permanently have the effects of Blackout Curtain, which prevents you from, being afflicted with Peak or Fluoroscopy, all right? So, pretty cool, pretty cool. I imagine a lot of people would want this card because in MMOs, everybody wants to be the cool, edgy guy that wears a cloak. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, look at that. I just happen to have a cloak here. What a coincidence. What a coinky-dink. All right. So it's like secret cape. Da 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 do 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 do. Oh, check this out. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I got my secret cape. Oh my god. No, seriously though. And I cast Bandit's Blade. You know, okay, no, seriously though. Like, let's imagine, like, not even Greed Island, but let's imagine like an MMO full dive RPG existed, like in Sword Art Online terms, okay? And you could go into this game. You know for a fact there would be so many edgy people in the world that would do just that. Like, they're in this full dive MMO, and they're like, I'm gonna wear a really cool cloak, and I'm gonna have a dagger. And I'm going to have this really emo name. I'm going to wear a cool hat and a mask. And I'm just going to walk around the game like this mysterious, edgy character with a troubled backstory. My name is Atticus Grimdark. And my entire town was burned down when I was a kid. And now I'm out there in the world and I don't feel about anything anymore. I just want vengeance. And then, but the thing is, there'd be people like that everywhere, right? Like, there'd be a bunch of players like, oh, hello there, Atticus Grimdark. My name is Emo Bloodraven. And my family's actually still alive, but they disowned me from my family, so I now wander the earth as a loner trying to seek out my purpose. It's like, oh, hello there, Emo Bloodraven. My name is, Blade Necropolis. My name's Blade Necropolis. I was cursed by a dark god. Just like, there'd be like, you know, a good percentage of characters that would just be walking around town with cloaks and daggers, just being like really cool and edgy. Meanwhile, you're just over there dressed like a normal player, just like, I just want to play the game, guys. You know, you want to go on a quest together? Blade Necropolis doesn't just go on quests with noobs. It just walks away. All right, but yeah, that's Secret Cape. Everybody wants to be Kirito. Everybody wants to have Secret Cape. Then we have the last one. We have Clairvoyant Snake. It's a very clairvoyant snake. You feed it a rank C card or above, and it will spit up a Clairvoyance. Oh, here it is. Clairvoyance. All right, so Clairvoyance. What did that card do again? So at number 15. Clairvoyance, see all card data of target player. So you feed the snake a C card or higher, and it spits out this. So you can kind of get like a decent amount of these, so you could see what the players have. But anyway, yeah. So, and you can reuse it. It's a snake. I guess it's your pet. You can name it. Slithers. Hello there, Slithers. Here, have a card. Have a C range card, Slithers. Well, here's a B rank card. Here's Leave. I feed it to Leave to get Clairvoyance. But yeah, anyway, those are all the cards. Like, every single card. I went through all of them, I think. Yeah. We got all 100 specified slots here. And we have all the spell cards here. So now, listen. You might say this is completely useless, right? You might say that this is never going to be relevant whatsoever. But hey, the first video was a lot of fun to make, and it also got a really decent amount of views. So hoping this one does too. But hey, if they ever come out with a Greed Island video game, if they ever come out with the Greed Island MMO for realsies, these are the videos. These are the strategies. Comment down below, how would you use these spell cards? Which ones would you be looking for? If you were in Greed Island and you couldn't leave, how would you look for a leave card right away? Like, I don't want to be here anymore. I just want to get off this island as quick as possible. Would you start collecting specified slots? What spells would you get? All that kind of jazz. Thanks for watching the video, everybody. This will be Tekking, signing out. Later. Leave on!